This is going to go over the difference between the Fiddlestick and the SmoothOperator. With this, I'm not going to show all of the operations of how these work. This is going to go under the assumption that you already know what these anchor systems are and how to use them, or at least have a general concept. So this is going to represent our anchor, this pipe here. Here's our rappel rope. The Fiddlestick is a stick made out of whatever material you decide to use, and a pull string permanently attached to that stick. So that would be the Fiddlestick. This hole in the end, Fiddlesticks do not have those. That is, it's just a stick with a string. The SmoothOperator, as it's evolved a little bit, has gotten rid of the pull string. There's no pull cord permanently attached to it. You'll attach your own when you set up the rappel. There are two holes, one in each end, and those holes are elongated. Those holes are elongated so they'll allow safety carabiners to be placed inside, as well as a pull cord or a rope or whatever you're going to use for your pull line to be inserted at the same time. So the main concern with the Fiddlestick or the SmoothOperator is after the stone knot is tied, I'll pull that down just a little bit more. There we go. After the stone knot is tied up and you've inserted the stick, you get that all cinched down. Now, one of the concerns is that this stick accidentally being pulled on by the cord and pulling out of the knot and releasing, or it banging up against rocks or something and pushing that stick out. That's been one of the concerns. When using the Fiddlestick with no hole in the end, the traditional way of protecting against that is to throw a safety carabiner over the center two strands and then click it into one of the ropes above the knot. The protection here does not prevent the stick from being pulled out. What it does is, if the stick is pulled out, the carabiner is in the knot and it can't be pulled apart. So if you're using this with a Fiddlestick, no hole in the end, you'd safety it up this way. Every person except the last person will go ahead and rappel down on the rope, on down and out of the way. The last person needs to remove this safety carabiner in order to be able to retrieve the system. He would have to do that by removing the safety carabiner off of the rope above the knot and then taking out of the knot. And in most cases, after people have rappelled down on this knot, it's cinched it up, the last person is going to have to loosen that knot up a little bit in order to allow the carabiner to move enough to be removed from the knot. So at that point, you've basically got a loose stone knot that you are re-cinching down on the Fiddlestick. The issue I have with that is that you watched everybody go down on that knot and watch it get tighter and tighter, and then you as the last person basically have to undo the knot, take out the biner, and re-cinch it. It's almost like going down on it rigged for the first time, other than you did get to see where it was positioned in reference to everything. You didn't get to watch the performance of the knot you will be rappelling on, because you loosened it and re-rigged it. One of the solutions to that suggested was to throw a hole in the end of the stick, click a safety carabiner in, and click it into one of the ropes above the knot. What that would do is prevent the stick from being pulled out of the knot accidentally or being bumped out of the knot. One of the arguments for having the single hole is that it's possible for something to push the stick in the other way and allow this carabiner to ride up. It's very, very difficult to make that happen. But in the remote chance it does, and something were to push that out, your knot could come undone on you, and you could have the string inside of there. That obviously would not be a very stable situation. So the answer to that is to use two holes, and that is what the SmoothOperator does. So we'll take that out. So the SmoothOperator would be inserted. You get your knot all cinched down the way you want it. You would throw a safety carabiner on one side, click it into one of the knots, take a safety carabiner and put it in the other hole, click it into the other rope above the knot, and then these holes, that's the reason for the elongation. You can choose which side you want to use, you could then tie in a pull cord. You can either use something like the 1/8 inch Dyneema pull line, or you can use another rappel rope as your pull cord. So you throw that in. I'll just throw a quick bowline on here for now. This is not properly tied up the way I normally would, just for demonstration purposes. So you would have your pull line on. Now, all but the last person will go ahead and rappel down. They'll rappel the knot, and as each person goes, they'll continually cinch this knot up tighter and tighter and tighter on the stick. The last person can sit and watch the performance of the knot, where it lies, what it's hitting, seeing that that's cinched up, there's no movement. They can feel pretty comfortable with what's going on. When it's time for that last person to go, pull line has already been set for them by all but the last person. It's just running down the rappels, ready to go, so they won't touch it. They'll have to remove both safety carabiners. So they can remove both from the ropes, remove both safety carabiners out of the holes in the end of the SmoothOperator, and they'll take those with them down the rappel, and they're ready to go. The advantage here is they have not disturbed the knot. They've watched the knot with every person rappelling. They've watched what it does. They've watched it get cinched tighter and tighter. They're comfortable with its performance, and they know what's happening, and they've never loosened it. They haven't done anything to the knot. They've simply removed those two safety carabiners. With both the Fiddlestick and the SmoothOperator, this is your most dangerous moment right here. It's the last person going down. As long as they are weighted on that rope, it's pretty difficult to pull this out, but it can happen. If they find the rope being unweighted during rappel, like if they're on a multi-stage or crossing a pothole or a ledge and the rope becomes unweighted, that's easier to pull. That's why you want that pull line set, nobody messing with it. So with the SmoothOperator, you've never had to touch that knot when you unrig the safety carabiners. You have to be careful for the last man down, just like the Fiddlestick, but you feel a little more confident in what that knot's going to do because you watched what it will do with every person before you and you did not disturb it. So after they're down, just like the Fiddlestick, the SmoothOperator is removed with a pull, pulls out of the knot, the stone knot falls apart, pulls around the anchor, and down you go.